The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of their countryside home, casting gentle shadows across the wooden floors where William and Kate had shared countless quiet moments together. After 47 years of marriage, they had learned to communicate through glances, understanding each other's thoughts without words. Kate noticed how William's hands trembled slightly as he reached for his morning tea, the same tremor that had started appearing more frequently over the past few months. William had always been the strong one in their relationship, the rock that Kate leaned on through life's storms. He was a retired carpenter who had built their home with his own hands, every beam and board carefully chosen and placed with love. Kate was a former school teacher who had touched the lives of hundreds of children throughout her career. Together they had created a life filled with simple pleasures and deep contentment. But lately something had changed. William's doctor visits had become more frequent, though he tried to hide his concerns from Kate. She noticed how he would sometimes pause mid-sentence, searching for words that had always come so easily to him. The man who could fix anything with his skilled hands now struggled to remember where he had placed his tools. Their small town knew them well. They were the couple who walked hand in hand to the local market every Tuesday, who sat on the same bench in the park each evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. William would always bring breadcrumbs for the ducks, while Kate carried her worn leather journal where she wrote down her thoughts and observations about their daily adventures. The diagnosis came on a rainy Thursday in October. Alzheimer's disease, the doctor said gently, his words falling like heavy stones in the quiet examination room. William squeezed Kate's hand tighter as they absorbed the news that would change everything they had planned for their golden years together. The doctor explained the progression, the gradual loss of memories that had taken a lifetime to build. That evening, they sat in their favorite spot on the porch swing that William had built when they first moved to the house. The rain had stopped and stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Neither spoke for a long time, both lost in their own thoughts about what lay ahead. Kate finally broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper as she told William that they would face this challenge together, just as they had faced everything else in their life. William looked at his beloved wife, seeing the same beautiful woman he had fallen in love with decades ago. Though now her hair was silver and gentle lines mapped the stories of their shared years, he made a decision that night, one that would define how they would spend whatever time remained. He would not let this disease steal their love story without creating one final chapter that would honor everything they had built together. The next morning, William began writing letters. Not just any letters, but detailed accounts of their life together. Their first meeting at the local library where Kate worked, their wedding day when it rained but they danced anyway, the birth of their children, and countless small moments that had woven the fabric of their marriage. He wanted to preserve their story before his memories began to fade, ensuring that Kate would always have these precious reminders of their extraordinary ordinary life. Kate discovered the letters a week later, hidden in William's workshop among his carefully organized tools. As she read his words, tears flowed freely down her cheeks. Each letter was a love note, a memory captured in his careful handwriting, a gift that would last long after his mind could no longer recall the moments he was describing. She realized that William was giving her the most precious farewell gift imaginable. Kate's hands shook as she carefully placed the letters back where she had found them, not wanting William to know she had discovered his secret project. She understood now why he had been spending more time in his workshop, often emerging with tears in his eyes that he quickly wiped away when he thought she wasn't looking. Her heart ached with a mixture of profound love and devastating sadness as she realized the depth of his sacrifice. The letters became William's daily ritual. Each morning after breakfast, he would retreat to his workshop and write about another chapter of their life together. He wrote about their first dance at the community center, how nervous he had been and how Kate's laughter had put him at ease. He described their honeymoon road trip in his old pickup truck, camping under the stars and planning their future together. Every memory was carefully preserved in his neat handwriting, a treasure chest of moments that defined their love. As weeks passed, Kate noticed subtle changes in William's behavior. Sometimes he would look at her with confusion, as if trying to place where he had seen her before. Other times he would call her by her sister's name or ask about people who had passed away years ago. But in his lucid moments, which still came frequently, he would hold her close and whisper that he loved her more than all the stars in the sky. Their daughter Sarah began visiting more often, sensing that something was changing in her parents' dynamic. She found her mother sitting at the kitchen table one afternoon, quietly crying over a cup of cold tea. When Sarah gently asked what was wrong, Kate finally shared the diagnosis in William's beautiful but heartbreaking letter project. Together they cried for the father and husband they were slowly losing, even as he sat just a room away, still physically present but gradually drifting into a world they couldn't follow. William's workshop became a sanctuary where past and present merged together. He would sometimes forget what he was writing about mid-sentence, staring at the paper with confusion. Before starting a completely different memory, Kate began checking on him more frequently, worried that he might hurt himself with his tools. One day she found him trying to build a birdhouse, but his hands couldn't remember the motions that had once been as natural as breathing. The local community began to notice changes too. Mrs. Henderson, from next door, mentioned to Kate that William had seemed confused when she greeted him during his morning walk, asking her name as if meeting her for the first time, despite being neighbors for 15 years. The clerk at the hardware store called to say that William had come in asking for supplies but couldn't remember what project he was working on. Despite these challenges, William's love for Kate remained constant. Even when he forgot other things, he would still reach for her hand while watching television, still bring her wildflowers from their garden, still tell her she was beautiful every morning. Love, it seemed, lived in a part of his mind that the disease couldn't touch, at least not yet. Kate began reading the letters he had written, each one a window into his perspective on their shared life. She discovered things she had never known, like how he had been too nervous to kiss her on their first date and had practiced on the back of his hand. She learned that he had carried her photo in his wallet to work every single day for 47 years, showing it to anyone who would listen as he proudly talked about his beautiful wife. One evening, as they sat on their porch swing watching the sunset, William turned to Kate with clear, focused eyes and said something that would stay with her forever. He told her that even if his mind forgot everything else, his heart would remember loving her. He asked her to promise that when the time came, she would let him go peacefully, knowing that their love story was complete and perfect just as it was. Winter arrived early that year, blanketing their small town in pristine white snow that transformed familiar landscapes into something magical, yet unfamiliar. For William, the changing seasons seemed to mirror his own internal transformation, as familiar memories became as elusive as snowflakes melting on warm ground. Kate watched him stand at their bedroom window each morning, studying the view as if seeing it for the first time, his confusion evident in the way he tilted his head and furrowed his brow. The letters in his workshop had multiplied into dozens, then hundreds, filling several boxes that Kate now helped him organize. She had become his silent partner in preserving their story, gently guiding him when he lost his train of thought or couldn't remember which memory he had been trying to capture. Sometimes she would find him holding his pen above a blank piece of paper, tears streaming down his face as he struggled to remember what he wanted to write about. Their daily routines became anchors in the storm of William's deteriorating memory. Kate would lay out his clothes each morning, the same blue shirt and brown pants he had worn to work for years, hoping the familiar textures and colors might provide comfort. She would make his tea in the exact same cup, serve his toast cut diagonally just the way he liked it, and sit with him as he slowly ate breakfast while staring out at the bird feeder he could no longer remember building. Dr. Martinez, their family physician, began making house calls, understanding that leaving their familiar environment often caused William additional confusion and distress. During one visit, he gently explained to Kate that William's condition was progressing more rapidly than initially expected. The safe, peaceful moments they treasured were becoming shorter and less frequent, replaced by periods where William didn't recognize his surroundings or even his own reflection in the mirror. Their son Michael drove up from the city with his teenage children, wanting them to spend time with their grandfather while he could still recognize them. The visit was both beautiful and heartbreaking as William delighted in playing simple card games with his grandchildren, though he forgot the rules repeatedly and sometimes called them by names of children he had taught to whittle decades ago. The teenagers were patient and kind, instinctively understanding that this might be their last real conversation with the grandfather who had always been their hero. Kate began reading William's letters aloud to him during their evening time together, hoping that hearing their story might spark recognition or bring him comfort. Sometimes his eyes would light up with brief understanding, and he would nod enthusiastically as she read about their first apartment or their wedding day. Other times, he would listen politely, as if she were telling him about strangers, commenting that the couple in the story sounded very nice and asking if she knew them personally. The hardest moment came on a Tuesday morning when William couldn't remember Kate's name. He looked at her with genuine kindness and concern, asking the nice lady in his kitchen if she knew where his wife had gone. Kate's heart shattered as she gently told him that she was his wife, watching confusion cloud his features as he studied her face, searching for recognition that wouldn't come. She spent that day crying in their bathroom, muffling her sobs so he wouldn't hear and become upset. Despite these challenges, beautiful moments still emerged like flowers blooming through snow. William would sometimes hum their wedding song while Kate cooked dinner, his voice clear and strong even when words failed him. He would still reach for her hand when they sat together, and his face would soften with contentment when she brushed his hair or helped him shave. Love expressed itself in ways that transcended memory and recognition. Their neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, organized the community to help support Kate during this difficult time. People began bringing meals, offering to sit with William while Kate ran errands, and sharing their own memories of the couple who had been pillars of their small town for decades. The local pastor started visiting weekly, not to preach, but simply to sit with William and listen to whatever stories or fragments of thoughts he wanted to share. As Christmas approached, Kate made the difficult decision to decorate their home exactly as they had for 46 previous years, hoping that familiar traditions might bring William comfort. She hung the same ornaments on their tree, played the same holiday music, and baked the same cookies using recipes she had memorized. William seemed to enjoy the festive atmosphere, though he couldn't quite understand why there was a tree in their living room or why the lady who took such good care of him was hanging colorful objects on its branches. Spring brought new challenges as William's world continued to shrink, his reality becoming increasingly confined to the immediate present moment. Kate found herself becoming his entire universe, the one constant person who remained patient and kind, even when he asked the same questions repeatedly, or became agitated by changes in routine that he couldn't understand. She learned to speak in simple, gentle tones, to move slowly so she wouldn't startle him, and to find joy in the smallest moments of connection. The letters in his workshop had stopped. William could no longer hold a pen steadily enough to write, and the thoughts that had once flowed so clearly onto paper now scattered like leaves in the wind before he could capture them. Kate would sometimes find him sitting at his workbench, holding a blank piece of paper and looking confused about what he was supposed to do with it. She would sit beside him quietly, sometimes reading one of his earlier letters aloud, watching his face for any flicker of recognition. Their daughter Sarah had moved back home temporarily, taking a leave of absence from her teaching job to help care for her father and support her mother. She watched Kate's unwavering devotion with a mixture of admiration and concern, seeing how her mother was pouring every ounce of her energy into making William's days as comfortable and peaceful as possible. Sarah gently suggested that they might need to consider additional help or even residential care, but Kate wasn't ready to have that conversation. William's physical health began to decline alongside his cognitive abilities. He started having difficulty swallowing, often forgetting to chew his food properly or becoming confused about what the items on his plate were meant for. Kate learned to cut everything into small pieces to ensure he drank enough water throughout the day, and to watch carefully for signs that he might be choking or struggling. Mealtimes, once filled with conversation and laughter, became exercises in patience and vigilance. The local community rallied around the family in ways that demonstrated the depth of love and respect William and Kate had earned over their decades of quiet service to others. Former students of Kate's, now adults with children of their own, would stop by with flowers or homemade meals. People whose homes William had helped build or repair would offer to maintain their yard or fix anything that needed attention around their house. The outpouring of support reminded Kate that their love story had touched many lives beyond their own family. Dr. Martinez began visiting more frequently, monitoring William's declining condition and helping Kate understand what to expect in the coming months. He spoke gently about the progression of the disease, explaining that William's body was beginning to forget basic functions, just as his mind had forgotten memories and recognition. The doctor's compassion and honesty helped Kate prepare for decisions she had never imagined having to make. One particularly difficult evening, William became extremely agitated, not recognizing their home and insisting that he needed to go back to his real house where his wife was waiting for him. Kate tried everything she could think of to calm him, showing him photos of their life together, playing his favorite music and speaking in soothing tones. Finally, exhausted and heartbroken, she simply held him while he cried, both of them lost in their own forms of grief for the man he used to be. Yet even in these darkest moments, glimpses of the William she had always known would shine through the confusion. He would sometimes look directly into her eyes with sudden clarity, saying her name with such love and recognition that her heart would soar with hope. He would pat her hand gently when she seemed upset, his caregiver instincts intact even when everything else had faded. These moments became precious gifts that sustained Kate through the most challenging days. The physical demands of caring for William were taking their toll on Kate's own health. She lost weight from the stress and constant vigilance, developed chronic back pain from helping him move around their home, and suffered from insomnia as she listened throughout the night for sounds that might indicate he needed help. Sarah and Michael took turns staying overnight, insisting that their mother needed rest even though Kate felt guilty about not being constantly available for her husband. As summer approached, Kate made the heartbreaking decision to convert their living room into a bedroom for William, as climbing stairs had become too dangerous and confusing for him. She moved their bed downstairs, rearranged furniture to create clear pathways, and removed items that might cause confusion or accidents. Their home, once filled with decades of collected memories, became simplified and sterile, prioritizing safety over sentiment. William seemed comfortable with the changes, though Kate mourned each familiar item she had to store away. The summer days blurred together in a rhythm of gentle care and quiet acceptance, as Kate devoted herself completely to William's comfort, during what everyone understood would likely be his final season. He slept more frequently now, often dozing in the comfortable chair by the window where he could watch birds visit the feeder he no longer remembered building. Kate would sit nearby with her knitting or a book, always ready to respond if he stirred or needed anything, treasuring these peaceful moments when his face relaxed into the expression she had loved for nearly 5 decades. Communication had become almost entirely nonverbal between them. William rarely spoke in complete sentences anymore, but his eyes still conveyed emotions that words couldn't capture. Kate learned to read the subtle changes in his expression, understanding when he was comfortable, confused, or experiencing discomfort. She would adjust his position, offer him water, or simply hold his hand until the moment of distress passed and contentment returned to his features. Their son Michael brought his guitar during one visit, remembering how his father had loved music throughout his life. As Michael played gentle melodies from William's younger years, something remarkable happened. William began moving his fingers as if playing along, muscle memory from his brief attempt at learning guitar in his 20s, somehow surviving when so much else had been lost. Kate watched through tears as music unlocked a part of her husband that disease couldn't fully erase. The hospice nurse, a gentle woman named Eleanor, began visiting twice a week to help Kate understand how to make William as comfortable as possible during his final journey. Eleanor taught Kate about pain management, how to recognize signs of distress, and most importantly, how to find peace in letting go when the time came. She assured Kate that her constant presence and love were the greatest gifts she could give William during this transition. Kate had started reading William's letters to him every evening, even though he no longer showed signs of understanding the words. She read about their first meeting, their wedding day, the births of their children, and countless small moments that had created their life together. Whether or not he comprehended the stories, her voice seemed to soothe him, and she found comfort in sharing their history aloud, keeping their love story alive even as its author slipped away. Their grandchildren visited one final time, led by Sarah and Michael, who wanted to give the teenagers a chance to say goodbye to their grandfather. The young people were initially frightened by William's condition, but Kate gently encouraged them to simply sit with him, hold his hand, and talk about their lives. Something beautiful happened during this visit, as 16-year-old Emma sang a lullaby she remembered William teaching her years ago. His eyes focused on her face with unexpected clarity, and he smiled the most genuine smile Kate had seen in months. As autumn approached, William's eating and drinking became increasingly difficult. Kate worked with the hospice team to keep him comfortable, understanding that his body was beginning the natural process of shutting down. She made the difficult decision to stop trying to force nutrition, focusing instead on keeping his mouth moist and ensuring he felt no distress. Dr. Martinez assured her that this was the natural progression and that William wasn't suffering. The local pastor began visiting daily, not to perform last rites, but simply to sit with the family and offer quiet companionship during this sacred time. He would read psalms that had always brought William comfort, play soft hymns on a small keyboard, and help Kate process her complex feelings about losing the love of her life, while simultaneously wanting his suffering to end. These conversations helped Kate understand that loving someone sometimes meant letting them go. Kate rarely left William's side now, sleeping in a chair next to his bed and waking frequently to check on his breathing and comfort level. Sarah had moved in completely, taking over household responsibilities and ensuring her mother ate regular meals and stayed hydrated. The family created a cocoon of love around William, filling his environment with familiar voices, gentle music, and the constant presence of people who cherished him. One evening, as golden sunset light filtered through their bedroom window, William opened his eyes and looked directly at Kate with startling clarity. For a brief, precious moment, recognition returned to his gaze and he whispered her name with the same love and tenderness he had spoken it with for 47 years. He told her in words that came slowly but clearly that she had been the best part of his entire life. Kate held his hand tightly, telling him how much she loved him and assuring him that it was okay to rest, that their love story was complete and beautiful just as it was. That night, Kate lay beside William in their bed, listening to his gentle breathing and feeling grateful for every moment they had shared together. She understood that their final goodbye was approaching, but instead of fear, she felt a deep sense of peace knowing that their love had been real, profound, and lasting enough to sustain her through whatever came next. The morning arrived with unusual quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath in reverence for the sacred transition taking place in the small house on Maple Street. Kate woke to find William's breathing had become shallow and irregular during the night, each breath coming with longer pauses that spoke of a body ready to release its hold on life. She called Sarah and Michael, her voice steady despite the tears flowing down her cheeks, telling them simply that it was time to come home. Eleanor, the hospice nurse, arrived within an hour, her experienced eyes immediately assessing William's condition with gentle professionalism. She confirmed what Kate already knew in her heart. William was entering his final hours, his body peacefully beginning the process of letting go. Eleanor checked his comfort levels, adjusted his positioning, and assured the family that he appeared to be experiencing no distress, just the natural ebbing of life that comes to everyone eventually. Sarah and Michael arrived together, their own children following quietly behind them as the family gathered around William's bedside. The grandchildren, now understanding the gravity of the moment, approached their grandfather with tender reverence, each taking a turn to hold his hand and whisper words of love and gratitude for all the memories he had given them. Even in his unconscious state, William's face seemed to soften when each family member spoke to him. The pastor arrived in the early afternoon, bringing with him a sense of peaceful spirituality that filled the room with comfort. He didn't come to perform ceremonies or recite formal prayers, but simply to sit with the family and offer the quiet strength that comes from decades of walking alongside people during their most profound moments. He spoke softly about the beauty of a life well lived and love that transcends physical existence. Kate positioned herself beside William's bed, holding his hand and speaking to him in the same gentle tone she had used throughout their marriage. She told him about the beautiful sunny day outside, described the birds at their feeder, and shared memories of their happiest moments together. Whether or not he could hear her words, she felt certain that he could sense her presence and the deep love that surrounded him in his final hours. As evening approached, the family maintained their vigil with quiet grace, taking turns sitting beside William while others prepared simple meals or stepped outside for brief moments of fresh air. The house filled with the soft sounds of love, gentle conversations, quiet laughter as someone shared a fond memory, and the steady rhythm of people who cared deeply supporting one another through profound loss. Around sunset, William's breathing became even more peaceful, each breath coming with longer pauses as his body gradually prepared for its final release. Kate leaned close to his ear, whispering all the things she wanted him to know. How grateful she was for their life together, how proud she felt to have been his wife, and how their love would continue in her heart forever. She assured him that their children and grandchildren would carry forward the values he had taught them. The room fell into reverent silence as William's breathing became increasingly peaceful, each family member instinctively understanding that they were witnessing something sacred and profound. Kate continued holding his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin and the faint pulse that had beaten in rhythm with her own heart for nearly 5 decades. She told him it was okay to go, that she would be fine, and that their love story was complete and perfect. At 7:32 in the evening, as the last golden light of sunset painted their bedroom walls, William took his final gentle breath and slipped peacefully away. The transition was so quiet and natural that for a moment, Kate thought he was simply sleeping more deeply. Then she realized that the hand she held had grown still, that the chest she had watched rise and fall for decades had found its rest. Kate sat quietly beside her husband for several minutes, the family respecting her need for these final private moments with the man who had been her everything for 47 years. She studied his peaceful face, memorizing every line and feature, telling him one last time how much she loved him and thanking him for the extraordinary gift of their life together. In that moment, despite her grief, she felt overwhelming gratitude for having experienced a love so deep and true. Eleanor stepped forward with gentle professionalism, confirming William's peaceful passing and helping the family understand the next steps they would need to take. But for now, she allowed them time to simply be present with their loss, to hold each other and begin processing the reality that William's earthly journey had ended while his legacy of love would continue, forever in their hearts and memories. The news of William's passing spread quietly through their small community that evening, carried by phone calls and gentle conversations between neighbors who had known and respected the couple for decades. People began gathering on their front porch, not to intrude on the family's grief, but to stand in silent tribute to a man who had touched many lives through his kindness, integrity, and devoted love for his family. The days following William's peaceful passing unfolded like a gentle symphony of love and remembrance, as their small community demonstrated the profound impact that one couple's quiet devotion could have on countless lives. Kate found herself surrounded by an outpouring of support that revealed how deeply William's kindness and their partnership had touched people throughout the decades. Former students, neighbors, colleagues, and friends appeared at their door with flowers, meals, and stories that painted a picture of a man whose legacy extended far beyond his immediate family. Sarah and Michael took charge of the funeral arrangements, working closely with Kate to plan a service that would honor their father's memory, while reflecting the humble grace with which he had lived his life. They chose the small community church where William and Kate had been married, where they had baptized their children, and where they had found comfort during difficult times. The pastor suggested keeping the service simple and personal, focusing on the love story that had inspired so many people over the years. Kate spent quiet hours in William's workshop, surrounded by the tools he had used to build their home and create countless projects for family and neighbors. She discovered that he had been working on one final surprise before his illness progressed, a small wooden jewelry box with their initials carved into the lid, apparently intended as a Christmas gift. Though unfinished, the box represented everything about William's character, his thoughtfulness, his skill with his hands, and his desire to create something beautiful for the woman he loved. The hundreds of letters William had written became Kate's most precious treasure, a detailed chronicle of their love story told in his own words. She spent evenings reading through them, sometimes laughing at his descriptions of their early dating mishaps, sometimes crying at his profound expressions of gratitude for their life together. Each letter revealed new facets of how William had experienced their shared journey, giving Kate insights into their relationship that she had never fully understood while living it. The funeral service became a celebration of love that touched everyone in attendance, with the small church overflowing with people whose lives had been enriched by knowing William and Kate. Former students spoke about Kate's influence on their education and William's visits to their classroom to teach woodworking skills. Neighbors shared stories of William's willingness to help with any project, no matter how small, and his genuine interest in their families and concerns. Kate found unexpected strength in listening to these testimonies, realizing that their quiet love story had rippled outward in ways she had never fully appreciated. William's legacy wasn't just in the furniture he had built or the houses he had helped construct, but in the example of devoted partnership he had modeled for younger couples, the kindness he had shown to everyone he met, and the joy he had found in simple daily pleasures shared with the woman he loved. In the weeks following the funeral, Kate began the difficult process of learning to live alone after 47 years of shared existence. The house felt impossibly quiet without William's presence, and she found herself setting two places at the table or speaking aloud to him as if he were still there. Sarah gently suggested that Kate might want to consider moving closer to family or into a smaller living situation. But Kate wasn't ready to leave the home where every room held memories of their life together. The community rallied around Kate, with the same dedication they had shown during William's illness, ensuring she was never truly alone even when she craved solitude. Mrs. Henderson from next door established a daily routine of checking in with cups of tea and gentle conversation. The local grocery store began delivering Kate's weekly supplies, and young people from the church volunteered to maintain the yard and handle household repairs that William had always managed. Kate found purpose in sharing William's letters with their children and grandchildren, reading selections aloud during family visits, and helping everyone understand the depth of devotion that had sustained their marriage through decades of ordinary days and extraordinary challenges. The letters became a bridge connecting past and present, ensuring that future generations would understand the power of committed love and daily choosing to cherish one another. On the first anniversary of William's passing, Kate organized a small gathering in their garden, inviting close friends and family to share memories and plant flowers in William's honor. As people told stories about his impact on their lives, Kate realized that their love story hadn't ended with his death but had transformed into something larger, a legacy of hope that inspired others to treasure their own relationships and find joy in simple moments of connection. Standing in the garden William had cultivated with such care, surrounded by people whose lives had been touched by their love story, Kate felt a profound sense of peace. She understood that while the physical chapters of their romance had concluded, the love they had built together would continue growing like the flowers around her, bringing beauty and inspiration to everyone who had witnessed their quiet but extraordinary devotion. Their farewell had indeed stirred millions of souls, proving that the greatest love stories aren't always dramatic or public, but are found in the daily choice to care for one another with tenderness, patience, and unwavering commitment through all of life's seasons.